Christine stood alone at the midnight bus station, her breath visible in the cold night air. She'd missed her earlier bus, and the next one wasn't due to arrive for another hour. She shivered and hugged her coat tighter around her body, feeling a sense of unease settling in the pit of her stomach. The station was eerily quiet, with only the occasional sound of a pacing car on the nearby railway. As she waited, she heard a strange noise coming from the bushes behind the station. It sounded like something was rustling in the leaves. Christine tried to ignore it, thinking it was probably just a stray animal, but the noise persisted and seemed to be getting closer. Suddenly, a creature emerged from the bushes, its eyes glowing in the darkness. It was unlike anything Christine had ever seen before. It was tall, with long, thin limbs and a face that seemed almost human, but distorted and twisted into a grotesque form. Christine froze, too terrified to move. The creature let out a chilling growl, and Christine realized that it was staring directly at her. She could feel its eyes boring into her, and she knew in that moment that she was in grave danger. She tried to run, but her legs felt heavy and uncooperative, as if they were made of lead. The creature started moving towards her, its movements fluid and graceful, like a predator stalking its prey. Christine knew she had to find a way to defend herself, but she had nothing with her except her phone. With trembling hands, she dialed 911, but as soon as she pressed the call button, the creature lunged at her. The phone went flying out of her hand, and she fell to the ground, her heart pounding with fear. The creature stood over her, its eyes glinting with malice. Christine could see its sharp, jagged teeth and smell its hot, fetid breath. She tried to crawl away, but the creature grabbed her leg, pulling her back towards it. Just as it was about to sink its teeth into her, a bright light shone through the darkness, illuminating the creature's face. It let out a pained shriek, and Christine saw that the light was coming from a car that had pulled into the station. A man stepped out of the car, holding a flashlight in one hand and a can of pepper spray in the other. He aimed the spray at the creature, causing it to recoil in pain. Then he turned his attention to Christine, helping her to her feet and guiding her towards his car. As they drove away from the station, Christine looked back at the creature, now just a dark silhouette against the night sky. She knew that she had narrowly escaped with her life, and that she would never forget the horror she had encountered that night. Days passed, and Christine tried to forget the incident, but it stayed with her, haunting her dreams and making her jump at every unexpected sound. She couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was still out there, watching and waiting for her. One night, she was walking home from work, her mind still preoccupied with the events at the bus station, when she heard a rustling in the bushes. Her heart pounding, she turned to face the noise, but there was nothing there. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, when she heard the growl. It was the same sound the creature had made at the bus station. Christine froze, her blood turning to ice in her veins. She knew that she had to run, but her legs refused to move. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a flash of light and heard the sound of a car pulling up beside her. The man from the bus station stepped out of the car, his flashlight in one hand and his pepper spray in the other. He looked at Christine with concern, asking if she was okay. Christine with concern, asking if she could feel her heart racing in her chest. She tried to speak, but no one... The man put his hand on her shoulder, reassuring her that everything was going to be all right. He suggested they go back to his car and wait until she felt safe enough to go home, Christine agreed, feeling grateful for the stranger's kindness. As they sat in the car, the man introduced himself as John. He asked Christine about what had happened at the bus station, and she recounted the story, her voice shaking with fear. John listened attentively, nodding his head in understanding. He told her that he had heard rumours about strange creatures roaming the area at night, but he had never seen one himself until that night at the bus station. Christine listened intently, her eyes wide with disbelief. She'd never heard of such a thing before, and the thought of those creatures lurking in the darkness sent shivers down her spine. John handed her a bottle of water, telling her to take a few sips to calm down. Christine did as she was told, taking small sips of the water and trying to steady her breathing. As they sat in silence, Christine couldn't help but feel a sense of unease settling in her stomach. She knew that the creatures were still out there, and that she was never truly safe. She wondered what would happen if they ever crossed paths again, and whether she would be able to defend herself. But for now, she was safe. She was in the car with John, and he had promised to take her home safely. She leaned back in her seat, her eyes drifting shut as she tried to push the terrifying images from her mind. As she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder what other horrors awaited her in the darkness, and whether she would ever be able to escape their grasp.